Today I want to talk about Theo Howard and a little bit about Josh Wariboko, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I want to have a discussion about Theo Howard and a bit about Josh Wariboko because many of you would know that Theo Howard announced that he is grad transferring to Oklahoma, and we're going to get into his background in just a minute. But first, let's do what we have been doing with this feature. Don't know how long I'm going to keep it up, but it seems to be working. Let's go for about 10 minutes on the clock. See what we got. So on, what is this? This is Thursday. So Wednesday night, around about 9 o'clock Central Time, Theo Howard announced that he is grad transferring from UCLA to Oklahoma. And that's a big deal for depth, right? It's not that Oklahoma lacks for talent. We know that Charleston Rambo is supposed to take over that Hollywood Brown spot, probably be the best wide receiver for Oklahoma on the roster, given experience and given the opportunities that he's going to have at that Z position. In 2018, we saw Hollywood Brown taking the top off of defenses, catching a bunch of passes down the field from Kyler Murray. And in 2017, we saw the same thing with Baker Mayfield. And yes, Hollywood Brown, to say nothing of what CeeDee Lamb is doing, right? But with Theo Weiss and with Jaden Hazelwood, you got a couple of guys that fit into the mold of the X receiver or more of the possession, catch it, and run it on a short route kind of guy like, yes, the one CeeDee Lamb was, right? And we know that Jaden Hazelwood was the number one wide receiver in the country in 2019. Theo Weiss is like number two. For me, Theo Weiss was the better pro prospect coming in. I liked his body type just a little bit more. I liked how much command he had when not just getting separation, but when the ball was in the air of his body, proprioception, where his body is in space. I just enjoyed him, and I saw more of him at Allen, Texas, quite honestly. Whereas Jaden Hazelwood, one-time Georgia commit, his father has ties to Oklahoma City. He's from Oklahoma City. He ends up signing with Oklahoma last January. Both of those guys are going to be important contributors, especially during the first 5 or 6 games of the year when we do not expect Trajan Bridges to be eligible to play. Trajan Bridges probably played the most of all of those wide receivers because he played on special teams as well. And he even saw some looks at safety during the season, playing some nickel. He looked a little bit out of place, but good enough for Alex Grinch to throw him in there ahead of some other guys like, say, Jeremiah Cradell or Jamal Morris. And I'm really interested to see what that defensive backfield looks like now that they got a bunch of dudes that, I say a bunch of dudes, 3-4 guys that Alex Grinch really wanted and that fit what he believes his scheme is built to do. But with Theo Howard, you're getting a guy with 119 catches over his career. He's 16th, I believe, all time in Pac-12 or school history. I got to go double check that. But he's at 677 yards receiving in the 2018 season. After things got off to a rocky start, 2019 season, he said, I'm just going to shut it down and I'm going to redshirt and I'm going to grad transfer. He had a hand injury that he was fighting through. When he faced Oklahoma in LA, OU's defensive backs ended his streak of 28 straight games with a reception. Now he gets to go at that same group of defensive backs for the winter, for the spring, for the summer, and into camp, and adds one more body to what I said was depth. So now you have 5 guys with experience playing wide receiver on this 2020 roster, and you feel really, really good about that. Howard was a one-time commit to Oregon going back to March 2015, coming out of Thousand Oaks, California, and at about 5'11", 6 feet, he ran 4.39 in the 40. So he's got blazing speed. He absolutely can tear down the field and take the top off the defense. So he could fit for you at that Z position where Charleston Rambo is. He can also play some inside receiver for you. Maybe play that Y position, right? Because I thought that would be a natural fit for him. Now, he's not as large as a Lee Morris or a Grant Calcaterra or even Austin Stogner, but that Y or even H, what they call the slot position, where Drake Stoops played, where Nick Basquin played, where you saw more Trajan Bridges than you might have thought you might see because he played a little bit outside too. I think that he allows you to basically line up with speed to one side, possession to another. And if you can get one-on-one matchups with single high safeties with Jaden Hazelwood or Theo Weiss, you're going to like your chances. And I think that's going to help whoever wins the starting job in 2020 at quarterback quite a bit, whether it be Spencer Rattler and Tanner Mordecai. I, like many of you, believe that it's going to be Spencer Rattler. He's just a ridiculous talent, and I'm going to have more to say about him later on because he's been putting out some highlight videos, and I don't even say highlight videos. He's just doing some trick shot stuff with a football, like throwing a football behind your back 40 yards. I can't throw a golf ball behind my back 40 yards, man. I doubt most people can. And I'm really excited that he gets this offensive line that returns a lot of experience, right? And we're going to see Creed Humphrey return. He's not going to the NFL draft. I mean, we still got 12 days before we get to say that officially, but feelers have been, he's going to stay put. He's going to work on his craft some more, and he needs to. He did not ascend in the way that we thought he might in 2019 to vault into the first round, and he is a first-round talent. He just needs some seasoning, and playing offensive line, playing center is difficult. But now he's going to have guys next to him that know what they're doing. He's not going to be as responsible as he once was. What gets lost about Creed Humphrey and his development is that he played on an offensive line that had Cody Ford on one side, Bobby Evans on the other side, Drew Samia, Ben Powers. That's all of those guys got drafted, all right? And all those guys got drafted in the first 4 rounds. That's ridiculous. So he had a lot of guys to help him. And now he is very much the leader of that offensive line with R.J. Proctor, grad transfer from UVA, deciding, he's done, right? Because he wanted to come to Bill Bedenbaugh for finishing school, used up his eligibility. I hope he goes and does well. Now, a little bit on Josh Wariboko, right? Source told me he is enrolled as a graduate at Oklahoma, right? This is a kiddo that was the number 1 recruit in the 2015 class out of the state of Oklahoma, had committed to Oklahoma, reopened his recruitment, and ended up going to UCLA in what was a coup at the time. And I mean, Josh Wariboko-Alali, A-L-A-L-I. Josh Wariboko-Alali, right? Because we got used to just using his middle name is what it is, right? It's not really. Josh Wariboko-Alali is of Nigerian descent, right? And his middle name isn't really his last name. His last name is very important, so much so that if you follow him on Twitter, you see that he just puts W period and then Alali. And I think it's actually pretty cool that he does that. Why? Because Alali means protector of place. And as an OG guard, that just works. It's very cool. It's very cool because you're protecting the quarterback. You know, like many of you, the first thing that popped in my head was Sandra Bullock going up to Mike talking about you protect his blind side, Michael, right? Michael Oher. So if he played, right, and I'm not sure that he is, but if he played, I think it provides you some outstanding depth, and there's your R.J. Proctor comp there, right? A guy that could play some guard for you, maybe even play some tackle. He redshirted his first season, didn't see a lot of action in the next 2 seasons, and was part of more than 30 players that had decided that they were leaving UCLA. And this comes back to, Roy Manning coached at UCLA, and he was a linebackers coach at UCLA when they had the number 1 player in the country, Jalen Phillips, commit and sign to go there. Same thing with Theo Howard. He was at UCLA. So you can see how Manning might know some of these kiddos, including Wariboko, who, yes, Bill Bedenbaugh is very familiar with, because there was a time when Josh Wariboko-Alali was as coveted as Bray Walker was in this state, right? And we could talk about what he was doing at UCLA and how it was going, but also what was Chip Kelly asking him to do. I think all of those things are very important. Coming back to a gap scheme and the way that Oklahoma runs it, you get Bill Bedenbaugh to run you through your paces, the way that he breaks up his offensive linemen to do drills. As a matter of fact, Bronson Irwin said this on this show last spring. One of the things that that Bill Bedenbaugh brought to them was they would be split up between a grad assistant and Bill in a way that they had never been split up before, so you could get more reps. And in getting more reps, you're learning to play offensive line because you only learn how to do that by doing it over and over and over. And with this limited amount of time that you get as a coach, you have to use it to the best of your ability. So if you can split a group of 6 up into 3, you're going to get twice as many reps for those guys. So if Wariboko is playing football at Oklahoma because he's from Oklahoma City, I could see how this could work out. And I'm for it. I understand that there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I forgot that Joshua Wariboko-Alali actually played in Oklahoma and that he went to UCLA. Oh, okay, cool. His little brother Max went to UTPB, and he's having a pretty decent career. Look, I really like it when Oklahoma kiddos get to play at Oklahoma. I'm out there with that. You know that. And I understand that not everybody believes that an OU kiddo is also a kiddo that played high school football in Oklahoma. Yes, you always have to go to Texas to recruit. You're going to have to go to Louisiana to recruit. You're going to have to go to California to recruit. You're going to have to go to Florida to recruit. Those are four of the most talent-rich states in America. Everybody tries to go to one of those four places to get kiddos. I mean, Theo Howard coming out of California tells you a lot about that. The fact that he was even going to go to Oregon speaks volumes as well. So knowing that Lincoln Riley and his staff are doing what they need to do to shore up their depth is why they have the jobs, right? Because we all had these questions about, all right, now that CeeDee Lamb is gone, yes, Jaden Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, and Trajan Bridges are going to step up, but Charleston Rambo, I mean, past those dudes, you had four guys that had significant experience that are on scholarship. And I know everybody thinks the world of Drake Stoops, right? I get that. But you're going to need Austin Stogner to step up in a real way. And if he can't do it right now, I'm not saying that he can't, maybe you want someone that has been a grad transfer, that has played elsewhere, step up and do this. This reminds me I want to say years ago, when Bob Stoops brought in Justin Brown from Penn State after they had the Sandusky scandal. And Justin Brown was really great for Oklahoma from a depth position, from the position of being a possession receiver, and he returned punts, right? Whenever you can do this kind of thing, I'm for it, because I think this is working the way that the transfer portal is meant to work. I think there's some people that believe that the transfer portal is a way for kids to get out, while they don't really want to acknowledge that some of the coaches push them out to make room for kids that they're bringing in, or because that kiddo was disgruntled about how he's being used. All of these things are very important, and they're fluid, right? Recruiting is not one way or another. Like, we're dealing with Zach Evans and trying to figure out what he's going to do. And there are folks that want to lampoon him, talk about him being, just a bad kid, or making terrible decisions, or being a flake, those sorts of things. I don't really want to participate in that culture, except to say what you see front-facing is not always what's true, right? Some of this stuff requires depth and nuance, which is why I'm trying to talk about Josh Wariboko in the way that has some depth and nuance to it, right? Same way that I try to talk about most of these kids that have some depth and nuance to it, because just saying that Spencer Rattler is an outstanding talent doesn't really tell you the whole story, right? He's been good for a very long time, and he's done nothing but win for a very long time. And we're going to walk into this thing. People are going to hear Spencer Rattler talk, and they're going to talk about him being cocky or not knowing that he's supposed to be humble, when if you know his story, you're all about what he is saying and how he is going about it. Like, I continue to say, I watched Spencer Rattler lose a 7-on-7 game with a bunch of commits that he kind of knew through text and whatnot, but hadn't really played with. And I watched him tell them, hey, this is on me. We're coming back. We're going to win this thing. And they did that. In a double elimination tournament, they went all the way through, and they won the opening final championship in 2018. And now they're together doing their thing. I think you're all going to get behind him. I think Theo Howard's going to help with this maturation. And yes, there is great reason to be excited about Oklahoma football. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.